Should you carry a gun as a landlord? Today on the Landlord Coach Daily Ish Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Landlord Coach Daily Ish Show. My name is Mark Dolfini, your host and Landlord Coach. It's really good to see you. Today we are going to be talking about a pretty important topic. I get this question a lot, not only because I am a rental housing provider, but also because I'm a 2A guy, and that is, I believe that every American, unless you have been lost that right to due process, I believe that everybody has the right to carry a weapon, not necessarily a firearm, but everybody has a right to defend themselves. And I know that I'm going to be unpopular for some people on this, been probably outrageously popular with others, but I do believe that this is a very serious topic. And I was doing just a little bit of research. I've done a similar video on this a while back, but I think it's definitely worth repeating. But I just did a quick Google search of this very issue, and it's kind of sad because I found there was one up in Cattaraugus County in New York, that this is back last year in July of 2020, and WIVB reported a landlord that was arrested for shooting a tenant during a dispute. And what had happened, New York State Police reported that troopers responded to the town of Farmersville to find the landlord of the property, a 51-year-old guy, Daniel Langdon of Little Valley, got into a physical altercation with a 40-year-old man that had been living there. That was obviously his resident. So this 51-year-old dude shows up. He's the landlord and gets into an altercation with his resident that's living there, who's 40 years old. Now, before I go on, I can just tell you this. I have been that mad where I have been out of my own mind and not thinking clearly. And where I've showed up at a property with every intent to just be disruptive, right? Just to, I don't know, I didn't know what I was going to do when I was on my way over there. And fortunately, I'm not predisposed to losing control. There's been a couple times where I have been on the edge. And I'm not proud of that. And for you to put yourself in a situation like that while you are carrying a firearm, flat just doesn't make sense. I don't understand why you would put yourself in a situation where an altercation could erupt and you are left to have to, defend yourself. Now, again, I don't know that it doesn't go into who started what. Who knows? Maybe the 40-year-old guy started the whole thing. I don't know. But if just in this particular case, if there was any chance of altercation, that's one of the reasons why I love where I live, because the local police will, I'd say, hey, there might be a chance that there's going to be a problem. Could you just show up just to make sure things don't get out of hand? And they will. I know that that's not normal in many areas, but I got to give our local police huge props. Sometimes I might have to wait 20, 30 minutes, but I don't mind, especially if it's a highly emotional sort of thing that could happen, like what happened in an eviction, or rent is unpaid, or someone's living there that doesn't belong there, that sort of thing. A lot of times the police can just de-escalate something before it ever escalates, and that's just something that, if you live in an area where you have that relationship with the police, then I would highly recommend that. What ended up happening, from what they could tell, the story isn't very well detailed, but during the altercation, Langdon, the landlord, pulled out his legally owned 9mm and shot the man multiple times. The tenant was airlifted for non-life-threatening injuries. Now, here's the real kicker to this. Police charged Langdon, the landlord, with attempted murder and first-degree assault. And he was arrested, put in jail, and held on a $25,000 cash bond following his arraignment. Now, I didn't follow up to see what ever became of this guy, but the point is on this, let's say he was behind a couple of months' rent. So now he's behind a few $1,000s and whatever that is. Now you're in jail, possibly getting ready to go to prison, and you're going to have legal fees well in excess of whatever that back rent was. So just judging by the fact that this happened in July of last year, this dude lived in the People's Republic of New York, where if you're a landlord, you're automatically wrong, and that's not me. That's just that's just the way the laws are written there. That's why I don't do business there as a rental housing provider. I don't know why you would ever want to get into the business of that in the state of New York, but again, that's just me. But the thing is, now he's going to be so much further behind because he allowed himself to be in that situation. Again, I don't know the scenario. I don't know if the other guy was the aggressor or whatever, and maybe he's going to be, maybe he'll be found not guilty. Maybe he was completely justified for that use of force. We don't know. The story didn't say. But here's where I when I get people that ask me all the time because they know I'm a Second Amendment guy. They know how I feel about that, and they also know that I'm a rental housing provider. First and foremost, I don't put myself in situations where I ever have to draw my gun. God forbid. Now, what I will use it for, there's times where I'm going into a property and, I push open the door, I say call out, hey, I'll say maintenance, I'll make sure that I'm well known. I don't want to surprise anybody, but I will generally at that point have it in my hand just in case someone surprises me out of somewhere because I'm making myself known. I'm not there to arrest anybody. I'm not there to do anything. I don't have that power, right? And some housing providers think that they are all knowing and all seeing, and they have that authority. You do not. You just provide housing, even though it's your property. Yeah, they're trespassing, but you let the law handle that. You are not the law. So, you maybe just have watched too many CSI episodes if that's what you're thinking. But you're not the law. You need to make sure that you have the proper authorities there because even if you are 100% justified, like this guy might have been justified, but now he's on $25,000 cash bond, and however much he's going to have to pay an attorney to get him out of and keep him out of prison. That's the sucky thing. You pull that trigger, you're hit, and you're responsible for whatever happens outside of that. And let's say, for argument's sake, you fire it through a window, misses the guy, and hits somebody else. It's still your fault. I mean, you're responsible for that bullet the minute it leaves the gun. So, how do I feel about this? I feel like there's a couple of things that you should do. Now, I do believe that everybody should have the right to carry, unless you've lost that right to due process, right? But I mean, the thing is, I don't think that everybody should. And I don't mean that in a way that it should only be held for a certain class of people or whatever. That's ridiculous. I believe that that's an inherent right to be able to protect yourself. But emotionally, I don't know that many people could handle the idea of actually pulling the trigger and potentially ending someone's life. I hope to God I never would ever have to be put in that situation. And that's why this is a very serious topic. Now, does that mean that you shouldn't carry something else? Like, there's plenty of other options, mace and, stun gun, taser, things like that. But again, many of them are also illegal in different states. Like, again, New York, a lot of that stuff's illegal. But, are you able, do you need to have a firearm, I guess is my point, to effectively protect yourself. There's many flashlights that are hidden as stun guns, right? It's not unusual for a leasing agent to be walking around with a flashlight, and it may not even look like a taser, but it could be. So those sorts of things, or not a taser, but a stun gun. So these are the sorts of things that you have to be mindful of in terms of mindset, because mindset is absolutely critical in that position. And also, have you received proper training? Because I'm very, very comfortable with a firearm. I don't know in a moment of stress what it would be like if I had to pull the trigger. I can't say what I would be like unless I was in that situation. I've never been in that situation, so I can't say. Where, I've got someone in front of me and I've got a gun on them if I would ever have to pull the trigger. So mindset training would have to be really critical to be part of that, especially if you've never held a gun before. And how often would you actually be able to train with it and get comfortable with it and that sort of thing. And there's people and I don't understand this because they're like, oh, I've never shot a gun, let me go, and let me go to the range, and they think it's funny to put like a 45 caliber or a big 357 Magnum in someone's hands that's never shot a gun, and they think that's cute. It's not. It's irresponsible. And the first time I took my bride shooting, I just put a little 22. She actually had a 22 long rifle pistol. It was real heavy. It was a Mark II Ruger, and thing's a book. I mean, thing's heavy and hardly any recoil. And she really enjoyed shooting it. And I think it might have even loaded with 22 shorts. So the thing was just hardly. It was just just puff puff puff. It was just really easy to shoot. For her, she really enjoyed it. So when we did bring her up to a 25 and then a 380 and then a 9mm and a 45, I mean, she was able to progress that way because she was more and more comfortable. So anyway, these are the sorts of things that that sort of training is really important. That's someone who is a professional, someone who is very familiar with guns and weapons and things like that in terms of how to use and mindset training is really, really important. Not that that's me. I'm just saying someone who is familiar with them that knows how to do that sort of stuff. So anyway, what I think probably your best ally in these sorts of things when you're putting yourselves in these situations, honestly, is just simple common sense. Some simple awareness will go a really long way. This guy who got arrested, where's your self-awareness, man? Why would you put yourself in that situation, unless you had someone else there? Again, don't know the scenario, but maybe that whole thing could have possibly have been avoided. But also, if I'm going up to a property, if I'm walking up to a property especially if a property is vacant, and I don't know if somebody's on the inside, I'm looking to see, could there be an open window where someone got in? Is the door ajar? Is the door slightly open as I'm walking up, indicating that someone might be in there? If I'm walking in and the property is supposed to be vacant, and the first thing I do when I walk in is I see a backpack sitting in the living room, I'm not sticking around to see whose backpack that is. That's probably somebody who's living there, right? Maybe they're in there taking a dump, and I don't want to surprise them. I don't want to walk I don't want to walk on that anyway, but I don't want to surprise anybody because if they're cornered, it's fight or flight, and I really don't want to. I don't want them jumping through a window to get out, and I don't want them trying to jump through me, right? So just a little bit of simple awareness would also be appropriate, and I think that honestly, in most cases, is probably the best weapon for most people, and what's most appropriate for most people, because I really don't. It's really hard for me to say yes that some people say, oh yes, all the time. I think it's the best thing to do, that everybody should carry, while I do believe that everybody should have the right to, I don't know that everybody has everybody has the right mindset with that. Reading a comment from Elizabeth Sacco. I remember getting yes, my good friend Sacco. So I got a Sacco taco one time. Her daughter and her hugged me at the same time. That was really cute. So I got the Sacco taco. But hi, Mark. Yes, self-defense is needed. Being in New York, I carry a wasp and hornet spray. Okay, so in your particular case, I think that again, I know you and I know your background, and I know you've received, you're comfortable around weapons, and and you're probably received that mindset training. I mean, that stuff is really, really critical. But again, even with that, and again, just really quick, I want to know this video is going long, but if you're not familiar with your weapon or getting it out or anything like that, I mean, if you've got like a behind the back holster or something along those lines where you've got big coats on, and you're going to have to take 4 layers of clothing off to get to your weapon, the perpetrator is not going to wait for you. They're like, oh, you had a gun? Okay, hang on, I'll hang out here until you get it out. Like, that's not going to happen. So there's other things that you just need to be mindful of. And this is all stuff that's well beyond the scope of this particular video. But at the end of the day, I think no matter whether you carry a weapon or you don't carry a weapon, I think the best thing that you can do is have awareness. And sometimes that simple awareness is, should I be here alone, or should I call the police just because there's been an antagonistic relationship that's been going on between me and my resident, and I really would feel comfortable if I could have, the police presence there, or somebody of authority that can help make sure that nothing gets it spun out of control, and everything is taken care of. Everything is nice and calm, and you can have conversation. And if it needs to be dealt with in the courtroom, then that's the appropriate place for that to happen. All right, well, that's all I have for today, everybody. And you won't see me tomorrow because I'm super excited. Tomorrow is my Inner Circle coaching members. We're going to be having our retreat. It's going to be going on this weekend, so you won't see me tomorrow. I might do an earlier one, but I doubt it. I'm not gonna. I don't know that I'm gonna have the time. But I will more than likely see you next week. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Inner Circle coaching members, and they get where they get to remember. If you've never been part of a mastermind, maybe I should talk about what a mastermind is. Maybe I'll do that next week because I know some people host masterminds, and other people have never really heard of them, and I think that they are incredibly valuable. So yeah. Why don't we do that next time? We'll talk about masterminds. All right. Everybody, have an awesome weekend, and I will see you guys next time. But please be sure to place a value in your free time, because if you don't, someone else will. But most important, there is no amount of money that will make time irrelevant. Take good care. We'll see you again.